Hey everybody, it's the dog days of summer here at the ShopNotes Podcast, where we have to turn on the fans to get the Wi-Fi flowing, and we're all kind of jonesing for a dilly bar. So it's time to get started with episode number 239. That means there's a back catalog of episodes of the ShopNotes Podcast that you may not have heard before. You can go to our YouTube channel at ShopNotes Podcast and check out all the action there and catch up on all the content that we've created. This episode of the ShopNotes Podcast is brought to you by Harvey Industries. Good enough is not good enough. See all of our new tools at harveywoodworking.com. All right, on today's episode, I have a few scheduled segments for us to run through. We're going to check in with listener comments, as always. We'll do a project update for me, talk about some tools, shop cleanup here. We'll check in with Logan on a Workbench update and see what else happens. Thanks for listening, everybody, and a thank you to everybody who subscribes to Woodsmith, Popular Woodworking, and ShopNotes magazine. It's what allows us to be able to do the podcast here every week. And I put every week with an asterisk by it because it's not always every week because it's summer. And some of us take vacations. So there you go. Also want to let you know a couple of things, new things going on. Later this fall, we'll be running Woodworking in America here in Des Moines, Iowa. We got a full slate of presenters. Tickets are going fast already. You could check out all the information, still get booked in on the early bird pricing at woodworkinginamerica.com. And as part of that, Logan just put the order in for the coffee mugs that are going to be
collector's edition mugs.
Yeah, collectors. I'll put a photo of those on the show notes page so you know what you're going to get when you sign up to join us at Woodworking in America, because you'll be able to put all your woodworking knowledge that you find and gather there in that coffee mug, in addition to all the sweet motivation juice that you need to get rolling in the morning and all throughout the day. The other thing is we've relaunched the Woodsmith Unlimited membership package. You can check that out at woodsmith.com, where you'll get full access to all the stuff that's been going on at Woodsmith for 45 years. Back issues, all the Woodsmith plans on woodsmithplans.com. There's also full access to all 18 seasons of the Woodsmith Shop TV show, soon to be 19 seasons, because season 19 will be airing starting in a couple of months here. So that's kind of cool to be thinking about that. And I've already been bugged by our show producer about meeting for season 20. That's right, 20th anniversary season of the Woodsmith Shop.
Is that the diamond anniversary?
A cardboard, I think.
The poetic alignment.
Yeah.
I was going to say it's the walnut anniversary. We should do all walnut projects, season 20.
Mm-hmm. All the shop projects out of walnut plywood. Yep. Mm-hmm. We got it. All right, let's check in with a couple of comments from last episode. Alfida158 says, a place in Switzerland where they carve animals out of wood. Well, that narrows it down a lot. Yeah, it's a place called Traufer. I will put another link to it in this week's show notes page. It's pretty cool. I finished my 2 sheep that I was carving and delivered those to their recipient, and it was very well received. On to making some cattle now.
20th anniversary is China, in case anybody's wondering.
Okay.
All right. Okay. That makes sense. He also says all of this
will be in China.
Right. All of this dairy discussing has made me wish I sprung for the ShopSmith cheese curd making attachment. ShopSmiths transform!
Still a better use for your ShopSmith.
It would be interesting to know, like, what's the compatibility of KitchenAid attachments and Shopsmith attachments.
Mhm.
How well do they mesh? I want to know. Daniel L says, proper project pre-flight checklist, Logan. Check switches, positions, and settings. That goes back to Logan's re-mortising adventure on his Workbench project.
So I appreciate this, that he dropped in the, well, okay, I guess it's technically an aeronautical term, the pre-flight. In the printing industry, that is also a term.
Right.
I was going to say, I was hoping he was dropping in a printing reference there, because that would have tickled my heartstrings. But now I just feel like a fool, standing there at the altar by myself.
Batty Crone Woodcrafts asks, are all three of you left-handed, or are your cameras flipped so left is right? LOL.
Mhm.
This is my right hand.
Yep.
Unfortunately, I'm the only one that is left-handed in this group.
And I have a theory, and I don't have a way of proving it, but I think that left-handed people just do it for attention.
I mean, you're
Prove me
not
wrong.
wrong, really. Yeah.
They just chose it from day one. They're going to be dramatic.
Yep. Barking Beaver says you should design t-shirts with various clever ShopNotes titles and offer them for sale. I'd buy that.
And I'll tell you, Barking Beaver would be the first woodworking logo that we would make.
Yeah. Well, that was in reference to episode 238, which was Before You Cut the Red Wire. Which I'm going to give credit right here. Nate's probably going to edit this out, to Nate Gruca, our podcast editor, who, for the most part, comes up with the show titles from some bit of nonsense that we say during the episode.
And there's a lot of nonsense to wade through. So
Yeah.
Yes. So special kudos to Nate for doing that for us. And also, once again, we're sorry. But not really. All right. Anyway, that's it for the listener feedback portion. As always, it's what drives a lot of what we do here. So please keep the questions and comments and smart remarks coming. We thrive on it. We feed on it like a Minoc on power cables is really how you would want to think of that. All right, little project update for me here is, I don't remember if I started talking about this last episode or not, but my wife recently started a new job, and she has a stand-up desk. Like John and Logan both have stand-up desks when they're in the office here. Because it's nice to stand sometimes, and then it's also good to have a stool to be able to sit when you need to, without it feeling really awkward, like you're a little kid at the grown-up table. So we had purchased a stool at one of the local home stores in town here. It was just the right height, great comfort, but the legs on this thing were a little spindly. And my wife asked if I could fix it up, make it a little bit more stable. So I just happened to have a bunch of pin oak, I believe, left over from some projects that we had done around here, some scraps. So I put together a base for that. And that was actually a pretty fun project because I more or less copied the footprint of the existing base and just made it out of wood instead of, basically looks like, 8-gauge wiring. So that I could use the existing base for all of the angles, rake and splay and all that kind of stuff, and more or less just follow that. And it was tons of fun. And gave me something quick to focus on. Also, I also did something in this project that I don't normally do, which is make a full-size drawing. Because in order to be able to catch the angles that I needed for cross rails to miter the ends of those pieces, I needed something better than the existing piece. So I was able to draw everything out. I did a front view and a side view on a big piece of craft paper, rolled it out on one of the tables here in the office, and then used a little transfer bevel gauge that Ben Strano actually designed for making on a 3D printer. So Chris had printed up one of those for me, and I was able to use that, and it worked out great. On all the joinery, I did loose tenon, as is my preference now. And I did the loose tenons with my Jessam mortise mill, pocket mortise mill, I think is what they call it. And it was tons of fun. I liked it. It's one of those things that I was thinking about it as I was working with it, because I had set up little stops for doing repeat operations on parts, just so that I didn't have to align everything. You could just kind of slip the part in, clamp it down, make the mortise. And I've discovered that there is a difference between easy to use tools and tools that are easy to use, like once you get the hang of it. And I feel like there are different categories, and I feel like the latter category, that there's a little bit that the tool requires of you to understand what it's doing and why, that gives you a better opportunity to make the most of that tool for other operations, if that makes sense. For example, with that Jessam tool, like the basic concept, you use a drill and a carbide spiral bit and you make a loose tenon slot. But once you figure out like what's going on with it and think about what exactly the operation is, then all of a sudden it's easy for you to think in that system. And that some of that kind of is inspired by the fact of, in the last episode, we were talking about Logan's Workbench and him using the Panto router, and that there's a lot of crossover principles between the Panto router and the Jessam thing that I think kind of opens up exactly what you're doing and gave me a better idea of what I'm trying to do with a particular operation with the mortise mill. So there you go. That's my little vague soliloquy on easy to use tools. Because I think there are some quote unquote easy to use tools that are too limiting in what you can do with it.
Oh yeah.
Just as I think as on the opposite end of the spectrum, there are tools that purport to be easy to use, but you have to dig out the manual every time you go to use it.
Every dovetail jig ever made.
Yep, that's exactly what I was thinking. You almost have to use a dovetail jig every day and keep it set up.
Yeah.
To really to get it to work easily. So.
Yep.
Yeah, that came up. I was watching, and I blame Logan for this, watching a few New Yankee Workshop videos on their YouTube channel. And Norm was using a dovetail jig on there quite often. They were some pretty early episodes and then ones later on. And so he was using different generations of different jigs. And it was kind of interesting to see, like he had the jig just set up, ready to go for the particular operation that he was using. So you just saw the part go in, clamp down, buzz, 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 buzz. And, oh, look, perfectly fit dovetails on drawers. And I know from a fact that dovetail jig, there's more going on there than what was stated, which is fine. I mean, from doing the show, the three of us know it's not easy to fully explain everything and get done with an episode in 2646.
Mm-hmm.
But on the other hand, I think, like John said, unless you use that dovetail jig regularly, it's kind of a math word problem every time.
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah, there's a lot of moving parts as far as like adjusting the bit height and the different templates, and you move one thing and then that other thing's off, and so it's a lot of back and forth until you get it honed in.
Right. And the other thing with a dovetail jig, it's not like you can recut a part either. Like you have to have whole new pieces or chop the ends off of it and recut the joint.
Mm-hmm.
I know for the longest time we had a Porter Cable half-blind dovetail jig in the main shop that we would use periodically on drawers. And the guys in the shop had a Porter Cable 690 router with a guide bushing and a dovetail bit in it, all set up. And essentially tack welded in place that you couldn't change the bit height setting on it at all, because it was like, this is dialed in, ready to go. We're not messing with this anymore.
Yeah. And I can't remember, does it really depend on part thicknesses too, if those are a little off, or not as much? Because it's based off the inside of the
half
drawer.
blinds.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that really only has to do with like the depth of the sockets when you're cutting those. Mm-hmm. The other thing that I was noticing on the Norm one, to continue on with this, is he used the dovetail jig on regular veneer core plywood to do both through and half blind dovetails a lot. More than I remember.
It's just because it gives, it's just because it gives you the ick now, but knowing with what you do with plywood, it might not give you the ick. Now, but like seriously though, is there ever a point where you're like, yeah, making these drawer boxes out of Baltic birch plywood, you know what it needs? Through dovetails.
Right.
Because there isn't with me. It's like, if it's a plywood drawer box, we're rabbiting that SOB and throwing screws in it.
Yep.
Yeah. I know we've done that in the past where we've only with Baltic birch plywood that we did half-blind dovetails. It was half-blind dovetail sides, I think, into a solid wood front.
That's fine because you still have a clean look at the joint.
Right.
That's permissible.
Yeah. John skeptical.
But you still see the top edges of it. I mean,
right.
on the top of the drawer, but
with
like,
Baltic birch,
box. Yeah.
So I don't know.
It's a choice. Of all the design choices, it's one of them. There was one set of projects that we did here, and I kind of hesitate to mention it, that we joined the drawer sides to the front with a sliding dovetail. So there was a tail routed on the ends of the drawer sides, and then the drawer front like slipped over the top of it because it had a dovetail socket, channel, dado, whatever you want to call it, in there, which is fine. However, the designer of that particular project ended up using MDF core plywood
for
both the drawer sides and the front. So it was like 1/2 inch, maybe it was even 3/4 inch. It was at least 1/2 inch MDF core plywood. And then the same on the front. And I was like, why are we doing this? This seems weird.
And you know what resists racking strength? Is a thin dovetail MDF tongue.
Yes. Yep. So circling back, I would like to find out from folk, what are some tools that they have in their shop that wasn't necessarily a easy to use tool, but has become so that you just turn to often? And that you kind of like, you get it, it gets you, you're making good projects because of the understanding that you have and the way that this particular tool or jig or whatever it is works.
And nobody
That'd be
better
my
say
question.
shopsmith. Nobody better say shopsmith. I'm going to catch these hands.
There we go.
Yep. Got to start that back up again.
Yep.
Catching hands.
Yeah. Just shopsmith.
I say, or
people.
shopsmith. Yeah.
There's a back catalog of episodes of the ShopNotes podcast that you may not have heard before. You can go to our YouTube channel at ShopNotes Podcast and check out all the action there and catch up on all the content that we've created. Another little update here in the studio after we finished filming season 19. We did a couple of e-learning courses. So we did the one with Mark Harrell as a joint course with Popular Woodworking and Fine Woodworking on handsaw sharpening and restoration, which was a really fun set of days with Mark here in the studio. And then I was out in Houston for an event, and then you guys did a course on Windsor chairs.
Yep, with Jeff Wyatt.
And that'll be coming out soon.
Mm-hmm. Nate is working on editing of that right now.
Yeah. So as a result, we were at the end of our TV show season, 2 e-learning courses, and the studio here was in a state of...
Lived in.
It was in a lived-in state, yep. It had kind of a evacuation sort of look to it, in that just stuff was just out. So I've spent the last couple of days sweeping and organizing. I still have a bit to go. We also have some upgrades that we want to do in the shop. We got the Grizzly sliding table saw attachment for our table saw, which I'm kind of excited about getting that put together. Though the idea of cracking open that box and seeing all the little erector set parts in there, I'm just not super thrilled about right off the top of my head, but we'll see.
You know, if it's like the Harvey one, which I have to assume they're fairly similar, it's not bad.
No,
it's not like a woodpecker's box where it's like you're doing the assembly. But I am a convertee of the sliding table.
Yeah.
Yep. I'm excited for Mark to come in and try that one, because we've talked for years about adding one into our shop there.
Right.
And I want him to see it, play with it, and tell us if he would use it. The shop guys are notorious for getting into their ways with tools, and then you give them something new and they just don't want to. It's not that they don't want to learn it, it's that you have to have time to experiment and play around with it, and there isn't always that time.
Yeah, it seems like they're always in the get it done mode, so it's just like you go back to the ways you know versus learning something new.
Yep. Like, I grabbed them a multi-router. I'm like, oh, they'll use a multi-router? This thing's great!
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's still in the developmental process.
Yeah. Yeah, they're still working up the courage to walk across the playground and talk to it.
Yeah. So one area of the shop, we have basically like a hutch in the back corner that has 2 upper cabinets, 3 lower cabinets, some pretty large drawers in it, stores a lot, but the appearance of it looks like a disaster all the time. So over the rest of this week, one of my tasks is to sort everything out over there again and see if there's a better way to organize the insides of some of the upper cabinets to make it easier for us to keep it a little neater, like that some places have a home. Because right now it's the upper cabinets are basically just one shelf and it's like quick throw it in and shut the doors. Or just leave it on the counter and hopefully the shop fairy will take care of it.
Never does.
Which our shop fairy, I don't know, doesn't have a key card anymore or what, but so anyway, that's what I'm doing. The rest of it I think is in decent shape.
Yeah.
Feels good.
We also got the new brush sander from Grizzly in.
Yes.
Which I'm excited to play with. I think we have to figure out where that's going to go. Is that going to go on the set? Is it going to go in the shop? I know that we had talked with Grizzly about wanting some video content on it, which means it needs to go on set at least for video content.
Right.
But does it live there? I don't know. And I don't know the weight of it, so I don't know how hard it is to move around. It's basically like a 15-inch planer.
Right.
Size-wise.
I mean, it's on wheels, right?
I think it can be on wheels.
I thought it came with
I don't know.
Wheels.
Maybe it did.
Yeah. That would make it easier.
Yeah. It would. But yeah.
I got a chance to play with it and demo it at the Grizzly tent sale last month, which was kind of fun. It was surprisingly not surprisingly, but sometimes with a new tool, especially a new tool category, it can be a little weird to try and figure out what the finesse of using it. But I think it's pretty quick read.
Yeah. I'm trying to look and see if it comes with wheels or not.
It'd be really nice if it did.
It would be really nice if it had casters.
I don't think it does.
Uh-oh. Well,
That's
we're going to want to...
That's really too bad.
Oh, boy.
Send it back.
So the second question that I have for folk is if there's a problem area in your workshop that is just tough to keep organized. Knowing that it's never really like done in a shop. Like Adam Savage says, it's a process to be managed, not a problem to be solved. But is there like that part of our shop is essential, but always in a state of chaos?
I'll tell you mine.
Yeah.
My lathe corner.
Okay.
100%. Because I have 3 lathes, have a lot of tooling that goes with said lathes. grinder, vacuum pumps for stabilizing. Like, there's a lot of accessories and stuff. Chucks, face shields, all that. Currently, my storage situation back there is we had a machinist cart that was an old ShopNotes project. Is that ShopNotes?
Yep.
That was in our old office that I grabbed when we moved out of there. And really good for this because the heavy-duty drawers meant to hold heavy machinist equipment, right? Holds all my heavy turning tools and stuff really well. That is back there, as is one of the wall-mounted drill press stations we built on the TV show that has the grinder on it. Not a whole lot of storage in those two items, and there's a lot of stuff. And it's just because I love turning, but that's not my day job, so I don't spend as much time back there as I want. Because I'm in the rest of the shop doing day job type stuff, right? So a lot of times it's like, 20 minutes to turn, go turn something. You know, definitely not daily, but like when I do. And then it's like, okay, gotta get back to doing my laundry list of stuff to get done for the magazine. Stuff doesn't always get put away, doesn't always end up where it's supposed to go. Some stuff doesn't actually have a home. But with all of that said, I think I have a solution that I'm waiting on two parts to come in. I have a garage storage system, so think of like metal upper cabinets, side cabinets, a workbench top, that is actually going to go back there, that I'm going to mount the grinder on. And here's the other thing that I think is going to be kind of cool is I'm going to set up my 3D printer inside of the cabinet in there. So it should stay dust free. I'll put my vacuum accessories in there and my vacuum chambers in there so those can actually be set up ready to go. Like, I have a vision of how I can fix this. It's going to be very similar to what we have on set, where there's two uppers, there's lowers, there's a workbench. But these are prefab ones. So they, I don't have to build them. Yuck, who wants to do that? But I think that's going to help that area of the shop significantly. And what that's going to do is that's going to free up that machinist cart to go over with my machinist stuff in the corner. So, yeah. I definitely have that area of the shop, though.
One thing that I've noticed about your shop as it's evolved is there are definitely parts of your workshop that I would call multi-purpose.
Oh, yeah.
And then you also are now... things are kind of gravitating into little clusters. Like the turning corner is definitely maturing as a place where it's almost like a self-contained shop within a shop.
Yeah.
Kind of an idea.
Yeah.
Would you agree with that?
Oh, 100%. Yeah. And what I've also started to do is mess around with stuff and like try things like, okay, I'm going to try to put this shelving unit here. Does it work? Yeah, for storage. Does it look like crap? Yeah. Does our producer hate it? Yes, she does. It's like, it's like that type of stuff. And there's definitely things that I had planned on, but as I'm in the shop working more and more, I'm like, that's not going to work. Or this would have been a lot better if I would have done this. One of them is my dust collector. Like, dust collector, absolutely love it. Best $9,000 I ever spent was my dust collector, my dust collection setup. Yeah, that's how I felt when I saw the price tag too, John. But now I'm like, you know what would have been really nice? To put the dust collector outside of the shop. Because the drum, I mean, it's a 5-gallon or 55-gallon drum it drops into. That doesn't take up a whole lot of area, but the filter that sticks off the side takes up a lot of area.
Right.
So now I'm looking at the option of potentially punching a hole in the wall and moving the dust collector out into the cold side of the shop. And what does that do? That frees up the corner, so the metal lathe can go over there. And if the metal lathe goes over there, that frees up the wall between the two bandsaws for maybe a lumber storage rack, which I did not design into my shop space.
Right.
Which that is the proper place for it, because that's where I break stuff down. That is where my big bandsaw is. That's where the joiner is. That's where the planer is. So like, it's definitely a constantly evolving thing. And I think anybody that has been in their shop for, any amount of time and actually put time in, like, working in their shop, your shop definitely evolves. It definitely changes. And I don't think you can be afraid to change stuff and say, well, I thought this was the right way to do it, but now I see it's not, so here's how we're going to change it. So
yeah. I would agree with that, because I think there's a lot of, as a beginning woodworker or a woodworker when I first started that didn't have much of a shop space, I dreamed of having a more permanent, slightly larger space that I felt could get set up, and it would be like set up. Like, this is your shop, and it's exactly not that. I think even within the course of a project, depending on what your space is like, you're going to configure things to be set up for milling or set up for joinery or set up for something else. And you're going to have that changing thing. Like even you with the Panto router, it's not like your Panto router stays set up in the same place all the time. You wheel that bad boy out when it's ready to go and set up kind of like a little joinery station around it.
Yeah.
For when you're doing that.
Yeah. Yep. And it's funny because I was thinking about this entire thing the other day, because I'm like, do I move the dust collector out to the cold side? My other option, this one sounds ridiculous, but I could do it, is I currently have 5 foot above the dust collector and the ceiling. I could raise the entire dust collector clear up to where the motor is touching the ceiling. That puts the filter at 6 foot. I'm 5'11", 5'10", 5'10 and a quarter, whatever. I could get under it. Does that make sense? So I'm thinking about this entire thing and about potentially putting a lumber rack there. Same thing. Panto router is sitting there right now, and it's on a cart, and I wheel that in when I'm ready to use it. I wheel it over to the workbench. My parts can be set up on the workbench. I can lay all the parts out. I can make sure I'm putting mortises in the right spot, tenons on the right ends. I would love to have a joinery station set up somewhere that the Panto router was just always plugged in, always hooked up to a dust extractor, but that's not feasible.
Yeah.
So, and right now, the cart's the best solution for that. Why did I make it a devil's cart? I don't know. It has 2 fixed wheels and 2 swivel wheels. Dumbest thing in the world. Yeah.
Why did you?
I don't know why. I don't know.
He probably just followed the plans.
No, I think Menards was out. If I vaguely remember this, Menards was out of swivels. They only had 2. So, yeah.
Okay.
Yep.
We'll put some photos up of Logan's lathe area and the dust collector corner on the show notes page. You can chime in with your own ideas. Should that go outside? Raise it up to the ceiling? Should he make room for a shopsmith? All of that.
Absolutely not.
So speaking of Workbench,
Yeah.
how is the Workbench coming along now?
Hey, she's trucking along. It's amazing. When you don't shoot photos on a project, man, you can get a lot of crap done. There's been a lot of flip-flop woodworking in my shop, like working in flip-flops. It's been great. Workbench base is done. I don't have drawer dividers in it yet. So the drawer dividers, I'm going to build the drawer slides in the drawer slides and guides in. So right now the drawer dividers are just a flat piece of stock. I am going to throw a domino on each end and do the slides clear to the back, and then guides are going to be mounted to that. So it's going to be a wood-on-wood drawer connection is what I'm getting at. Okay. I have to do those, and then I can glue those in. I've been finishing parts as I go. I've been using a shout-out to Nick at Workshop Companion, I believe is the channel. Nick Engler, I think, is the YouTube channel. He did a really cool comparison on the different hard oil waxes in a recent video. So he compared Rubio Monocoat, Osmo, all of them. And he's like, here's the one I use, and it's a little shop-made concoction of linseed oil, varnish, mineral spirits, beeswax, and carnauba wax. And I have been using it. I freaking love it. It's great. You basically melt everything in a double boiler, and then it's like a pudding cup consistency, and you can brush it on. You let it soak in for a little bit, and then you buff it off. And when you buff it off, if you buff it extremely hard and fast, the wax melts and it gets smooth and glossy. If you don't buff it extremely hard and fast, it stays a little tacky, but then if you come back the next day, all the solvents flash off, and then it buffs up really quickly without a ton of elbow grease. And I've been finishing parts as I've been going, and it's unbelievable. Base is all together. Morrison tendons are all done. They're all pegged. Raised panels on the 3 sides. Drawers on the right. Doors on the left. I glued up my workbench top last night. Well, yeah, over the last 2 days I've glued it up. It is maple. It is 3 inches thick. It is currently 24 inches wide. And then I am doing thicker aprons on the outside where the dog holes are going to be. So I'm going to go probably 4.5 inches on those, and end caps. But I just this morning, right before we podcast, we got back home from taking my workbench top over to old Bobby Three Fingers, and we ran it through his CNC flattener. I will never again mess with a router jig to flatten a slab. Oh my God. We're sitting there in his reclining chairs at the end of his slab flattener. He's just controlling the head with a joystick. We're chatting, dust collectors going. It was wonderful. So got it all done. I did run into an issue last night as I was I glued it up in 2 halves. So a foot section, 3.5 inches before we flattened it, thick. And I went to glue the 2 together last night at 10 o'clock at night. Because I had planned on going over to Bobby's today to flatten it. Got glue spread, slapped the 2 parts together, clamped them looks good. Walked around to the other side, which is the top surface. There was an 1/8 inch gap the whole way.
Whoa.
And I am like, what in the world? Something somewhere moved. I face jointed, edge jointed, and planed everything before it got glued up.
Yeah.
Something somewhere got off. Or I had a couple pieces of maple. I ordered just enough maple. Actually, I had to steal a piece of maple from the shop there to finish out the top. I had a couple pieces that were really twisted and bowed. I thought I got them flat, but maybe I didn't. And that was what my 2 mating surfaces were. So I knocked them apart, let the glue dry, and then I'm looking at them at 10 o'clock last night, how in the hell am I going to run these things over the jointer? They're 95 pounds a piece.
Right.
So I ended up roughing them down to length. They're a couple inches long, just to lop off a little bit of weight. Set up a bunch of roller stands. Really cranked down every fence adjustment on this jet joiner. So I didn't throw the fence out of square as I was trying to muscle these across. Worked beautiful. Worked absolutely beautiful. So
okay.
Yeah, so the top is flat, is on the base. It's not attached yet. I'm actually patching in a little bit of a patch before I glue on the outside aprons because I had one one of those twisted pieces had a little bit of skip planing marks still, and that was on the top edge of the face, so you'd see it when I glued up the next laminate. So I actually took a rabbiting router bit, cut a rabbet, and I'm just going to scab in a piece.
Okay.
So it'll just look like a patch. I'm not terribly concerned about it. But now my next question is, I have two questions. The first is, I'm going to do end caps. I have a Hovarter tail vise that's going to get installed on it. Do I do dovetails onto the aprons on the end cap? Or do I do what we've done with Woodsmith stuff in the past and maybe do a couple splines? I don't know. Dovetails look better, but that just sounds like a lot of pain in the ass that I don't want to deal with.
Splines would be easy.
Splines would be super easy. Throw a wing cutter in there and just route it.
Right. Dovetailed spline. Just like do a little dovetail spline on the end. Just like a little butterfly.
There you go.
Thing on the end.
Yeah,
so
that would be kind of cool.
Dovetail spline.
It would. That'd be kind of cool. So that's one question. And then the second question is, I tore apart yesterday between meetings, my pattern maker's vise. Okay. I'm going to clean it up. I'm going to paint it. I'm going to polish some of the parts before it gets mounted to the workbench. The top jaw is missing a chunk, or the front jaw is missing a little bit of a chunk. So
okay.
The Emmert pattern maker vise has 2 dogs. Okay. It has 4. It has 2 on the back jaw, 2 on the front jaw.
Right.
And right between them is a little webbing of cast iron, and they're notorious for getting a semicircle break out of them. And this one has that. So the question is, do I embrace it for what it is? Do I try to patch it with like an epoxy pour type thing? Probably with a couple of pins in there to hold it in. Or do I make it centered, 45 it, and then just grind it flat so it just looks like it is a...
Oh, just a notch?
Just a notch. And that's kind of where I'm leaning. I found a guy that sells parts to these. He will sell me a new front jaw for $200 plus shipping.
Yeah.
$250. But because I got this from my buddy, Norm, I don't really want to do that. I want to kind of keep it for what it was. I'm leaning towards the clean up the brake with the angle grinder, make it look semi-presentable, and just call it good.
Yeah, I guess that's what I would do. Is just you're kind of acknowledging its history, but not leaving it broken, so to speak. You're doing something to...
Sure. Yeah. Well, and I'm thinking that I will probably put wood jaws inside of the steel jaws.
Yeah.
And I could add a little batten on the top of the jaws to kind of fill in that notch area. I don't know. That's... Yeah. I gotta figure out how I'm going to clean this up, because these jaws are freaking massive. You pointed it out, Phil, and I've been looking at this thing for a year now, and it's like, oh, it's not that big until you start trying to figure out overhangs on a workbench to fit everything. It's massive. The jaws are like 18 inches wide. It's huge. It weighs 95 pounds. So.
Add stability.
Yeah. Yep, I think we're going with Cerakote as the paint. I have Cerakote Highland Green that I bought for some machinery, and I think that'll look kind of cool. We'll do Cerakote Green, and then some of the parts I'm actually going to not paint, and I'm going to polish instead.
Okay.
So, we'll see. It looks really good on my head. ChatGPT's rendering of it looked fine, but like it wasn't the right style of vise.
Yeah.
So.
I think the green will play well with the tones in the cherry.
That was exactly my thought. Yeah. A lot of the Emmert vices are either painted black or steel gray or like a machinery gray, and I'm like, ugh.
Yeah.
Black always looks dirty. Always.
Right.
So.
And color's always a better idea.
Yeah.
All right, there you have it. I think that wraps up another episode of the Shop Notes Podcast. Thanks for listening, everybody. Don't forget to check in on comments, questions, and smart remarks. We got the 3 poll questions today. Is there an easy-to-use tool that you have in your shop that you've come to love, and why? Is there a spot in your shop that's a little bit of a trouble area in terms of its organization or ability to keep serving its needs well? And what should Logan do about his pattern maker vise? Repair, leave it as is, or replace the part? We'll check back in with it and see where it all turns out. Want to give a special thanks to Harvey Industries for sponsoring today's episode. Good enough is not good enough for them. You want the right woodworking tools, and Harvey has them. Check them out at harveywoodworking.com. Thanks for listening, everybody. Bye.